Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, you've heard the old expression, it's not my first rodeo. Well, you'll meet a man whose rodeo career has turned into a thriving book business. That's next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, as many of you know, I wrote a book 20 years ago. Very proud of it. It almost killed me. People say, when's book 2 coming out? And I was like, the first one almost killed me. But to talk about the book business, a man whose business is absolutely thriving. He is based here in Fort Worth. Billy Huckaby. He is the CEO and founder of Wild Horse Media Group. Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here, and thank you for having me.
Well, I find your journey fascinating because you didn't, wake up when you're 20 years old and saying, I'm going to become a publisher. Your career actually took a right turn, and part of your career includes being a rodeo announcer.
It does. I've pretty much stumbled and fumbled all through my life and from one career to another, but it's always kind of been based off of the sport of rodeo. But I got involved in rodeo when I was 15 years old and still involved today.
And you started out competing.
Yeah, I rode bareback horses and bulls for 15 years and was on the rodeo team at Texas Tech and did it as long as my body would let me do it. And then finally one day had to call it quits.
Are there more bumps and bruises in rodeo or the book business?
Well, physically, it's in rodeo. Financially, it might be in the book business, although, rodeo can be pretty expensive as well.
We've got a clip of you announcing at the Fort Worth Stockyards. Let's go ahead and roll that now. Well, that's fun. I mean, do you ever mess up?
If I do, only me and my sound man know about it. I just keep rolling.
You ever forget the name of the cowboy or?
No, because it's all written down. But I always say nobody listens to the rodeo announcer, even though I'm loud and it's over the audio system and all that. People, I think, kind of tune the announcer out at some point.
Okay, so Billy, tell me how that turned into a career in the book business.
Well, the book business really evolved from my career in publishing, which I used to own the Joshua Tribune and worked for various weekly and daily newspapers. And when I had the weekly paper in Joshua, every Wednesday was press day, and I saw the sun come up every Tuesday morning. And I thought, what could I do? I just can't handle these deadlines. I'll do monthly publications. So eventually I sold it, and I had 4 or 5 monthly publications. Well, there are deadlines every month. So I thought, what can I do that's no deadlines? And I thought, book publishing, because you get it done, it's done. But now I've got a fairly large book publishing company, and I've got more deadlines than I ever dreamed about. And
you publish a wide range of topics. You've brought 3 examples in front of you. Let's talk about Black Wall Street.
Well, of course, Black Wall Street's had a lot of publicity recently because of the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre that took place back in 1921. And when I acquired Aiken Press, I had no concept. I knew some of the books they'd published, but I wasn't familiar with the Black Wall Street books. And they had published 3 books dealing with the massacre. And then I published this one about a year ago, which commemorates the 100th anniversary. And then we're about to publish a book that is a first-person witness account of the massacre from a white man's perspective.
Wow, that's fascinating. And this one did very well commercially.
It's done extremely well, but the predecessor to this, which is just Black Wall Street, they're both written by Hannibal Johnson, who's a prominent attorney in Tulsa and probably the foremost historian on the massacre. His first book is actually sold better than this book through this whole period. But where this book was interesting, I had a lot of corporations in Tulsa buy this book in bulk, and they're using it in their diversity training within the corporations. And that's a sales stream revenue that I had never even thought about.
Absolutely. Okay, the tall book in the middle.
That's Death on the Gallows, the Encyclopedia of Legal Hangings in Texas. When I got into the book publishing business, that's more kind of what I had in mind to do, kind of Southwest, Western history books, and we do a lot of that.
And when somebody comes to you with an idea for a book, you don't accept every book, do you?
No, I reject 99% of what comes to me. Matter of fact, my pretty much pat answer is when somebody approaches me, I just say no, and I try to do it gently. But I've got a really good set of authors that I'm working with we've done multiple books, like Bill O'Neill, who was the official Texas state historian of Texas. We've done several of his books. So, but in the book publishing business, I get queries daily.
Have you ever turned down a book you regret? Like, I'm sorry, J.K. Rowling, that magic book about some kid wizard will never sell.
If I have or if I do, I don't want to know about it. But that's probably the biggest thing when people query you about doing books. This can be just like, some bestseller that I know it's not, and I'm not going to break their heart and let them know it's not either. But that type book's one in a million.
It's like telling a mom that her baby is ugly. It's right. Hard to do. You got to be delicate. Okay, this final book here.
That Gamblers and Gangsters, that's one of the books that Aiken had originally published before I bought the company. And that's one of the books I was familiar with. And it's a really good seller for us. And that's more along the lines of the history. You can name about any city, county, historical figure in Texas, and Aiken Press at one point or another did books about it.
Wow. What I love about Texas is to me, it gets sexier every single year. It seems like every reality show that you see has some Texan on there. Of course, we've had a number of presidents. Do you see interest in the Southwest and Texas books continuing to increase into the future?
Well, I think it will because, and it goes kind of back to my rodeo days. Probably the number one cultural icon in the world is the American cowboy. And Texas is fortunate when you think cowboy, we've got to be the number one state that comes to mind. And so I think they just go hand in hand with each other.
Yeah. Now, I know you're not currently accepting books, but if somebody came up with, just a jaw-dropping title.
Well, of course, I'm a businessman. The number one thing I look at is the marketing aspect of it. Can I sell this book? And I'm not rejecting all books. I've got a book that I've just accepted. We haven't signed a contract and all that yet, but he sent me the manuscript. It's a history of all the military air bases along the Red River during World War I and World War II.
What is it about a book that will attract you? You mentioned, how well will it do commercially, but beyond that?
Well, it's got to be a book I want to read, and I don't read fiction. And I don't publish fiction, so, and I tell everybody that I've got to want to read it, and so that's kind of the number one. And then the second aspect of it is, can I sell it? Can we make money with it?
Okay, so what's next for you? I know you're an empire builder. Would you like to get this thing, nationwide? Or yes, it is kind of nationwide.
Well, it's actually worldwide because our book distributor distributes books all over the world. So any of these books you see here, if you live in Australia and want to buy the book, it's actually downloaded and printed in Australia. Wow. And it's about 30 countries around the world. And in India, as an example, I was told last year that the company they're working with, somebody buys one of these books in India, it's printed and shipped within 24 hours.
That's amazing. Have you ever had a conversation with somebody and you're talking about something and they said, I read a good book on that, and you're like, I published that book.
I've actually had that happen a couple of times. Yeah, but but we none of our books are what I would call huge sellers, but we've got over 1,000 titles, and if I can sell just a few of each of the 1,000, I'm happy.
Well, I'm proud of you, and thank you so much for sharing this information. We're going to end by putting up your website, which is wildhorsemedia.com. Thank you so much, Billy, coming on the show.
Thank you.
You bet. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.